Hey everyone, big thanks to Litter PG Reads and to our fine fellow Paul Bello for sending this over. This is awesome material for our deep dive today. I've always loved creating character backstories. It's like you're building a whole life before the game even begins, complete with secrets and motivations and maybe even a touch of tragedy. I remember this one campaign I was playing a rogue who was secretly a noble's exiled heir, and throughout the game I would drop like these subtle hints about my character's past, using phrases from a noble dialect or expressing a surprising knowledge of courtly etiquette. And the DM picked up on those keys, wove them into the story, and eventually the truth about my character's lineage, it came out. And this really dramatic confrontation with a rival noble is one of those aha moments that makes you just love tabletop RPGs. But enough about my adventures. You sent us a fantastic article from Litter PG Reads about crafting those compelling D&D backstories. It's called 5 Tips for Creating a Strong and Believable D&D Backstory Easily. Written by Ken Chan and published just this month, November 1st, 2024. So let's unpack these tips and see how they can help us create characters that are more than just stats on a sheet. The first tip is all about understanding the core of your character. Now, this isn't just about listing their likes and dislikes. It's about digging into their core motivations. What drives them? What are their goals, fears, dreams? Are they seeking revenge, yearning for redemption, or maybe striving for something as simple as protecting their loved ones? Think of Hamlet, driven by the need to avenge his father's murder, or Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games, motivated by that fierce desire to protect her younger sister. These core motivations are not just backstory. They're the engine that drives the entire plot. The article gives some great starting points like revenge, redemption, fame, protection. But don't feel limited by those examples. Maybe your character is driven by an insatiable curiosity or a thirst for knowledge, or even a burning desire to prove themselves worthy. The key is to find that one driving force that shapes their actions and their reactions, making them feel truly alive. And here's where it gets even more interesting. What happens when those motivations conflict? What if your character seeks revenge, but also values compassion, or craves power but fears its corrupting influence? These internal struggles, these contradictions, are what make characters truly compelling. They add depth, complexity, and they create opportunities for internal conflict and growth throughout the campaign. So when you're crafting your character's backstory, don't shy away from those conflicting motivations. Embrace them. Let them simmer beneath the surface, influencing their choices and actions in subtle ways. Trust me, it'll make your character feel more real, more human, and ultimately more memorable.
What's fascinating about these core motivations is they often tap into universal human experiences. We can all relate to the desire for belonging, the fear of loss, the yearning for purpose. And when those desires are woven into a character's backstory, it creates a connection between the player and their creation, making the character's journey feel all the more meaningful. Take, for example, the classic hero's journey. It's a narrative archetype that resonates across cultures and time periods because it speaks to our innate desire for growth, for overcoming challenges, for finding our place in the world. And when we understand the core motivations driving our D&D characters, we can tap into those archetypal themes, creating stories that are both personal and universal, engaging both the player and the audience.
Absolutely. It's like we're tapping into these primal storytelling instincts, creating characters that resonate with us on a deeper level. And, that brings us to the second tip from the article. Tie the character to the game world. This is where we take those core motivations and we ground them in the setting, making the character feel like a believable inhabitant of that world. Think about it. A character raised in a bustling port city is going to have a different outlook than one who grew up in a secluded mountain village. Their values, their customs, even their speech patterns will be influenced by their environment. Now, the article suggests some great ways to achieve this. You can delve into the cultural details of the game world, exploring local superstitions, religious practices, or even culinary traditions. Think about the festivals they celebrate, the stories they tell, the songs they sing. These cultural nuances add a layer of authenticity to your character, making them feel like a product of their environment. But you can go even deeper than that. Consider the political climate of the region, the social hierarchies, the economic realities. Maybe your character comes from a family of struggling farmers, constantly at the mercy of a harsh feudal lord. Or perhaps they were raised in a wealthy merchant family, accustomed to a life of luxury and privilege. These societal factors shape a character's worldview, influencing their attitudes towards authority, wealth, and power. And let's not forget about geography. Is your character from a windswept coastal region, a dense forest, or a sprawling desert? Their physical surroundings can shape their personality, their skills, and even their fears. A character who grew up sailing the open seas might be fearless and resourceful, while one who spent their childhood navigating a treacherous mountain range might be cautious and agile. The key is to consider how all these elements, culture, society, and geography, come together to shape your character's identity. Don't just tell us where they're from, show us how their background has influenced who they are. Use specific details, anecdotes, and even snippets of dialogue to bring their past to life. For example, instead of saying, my character is from a warrior culture, you could say, my character grew up hearing tales of legendary battles fought by their ancestors. Every child in their village is trained in swordsmanship from a young age, and they bear a ritual scar on their arm as a mark of their warrior heritage. End quote. See the difference? Those specific details paint a much richer picture, giving us a glimpse into the character's upbringing and the values they hold dear.
What's so effective about this approach is that it creates a sense of verisimilitude, a feeling that the character truly belongs in the world they inhabit. It's like the difference between reading a dry history textbook and immersing yourself in a historical novel. The details, the nuances, the lived-in quality of the world draw you in, making you believe in the characters and their stories. And when a character feels grounded in their world, their actions and reactions become more believable, more meaningful. Their motivations are no longer abstract concepts. They're rooted in the concrete realities of their environment, their history, their culture. This creates a sense of depth and complexity that makes the character feel truly alive. And it's not just about creating a believable character, it's about providing opportunities for the DM to weave those details into the campaign. Remember, D&D is a collaborative storytelling experience, and the more you give your DM to work with, the richer and more engaging the story becomes. Think of it like planting seeds in a garden. Each detail you provide about your character's background is a potential seed that the DM can nurture and grow into something unexpected and delightful. Maybe that local superstition about ravens becomes a recurring motif in the campaign. Or perhaps that family heirloom holds the key to solving a long-forgotten mystery. The more you ground your character in the game world, the more those seeds will take root, creating a truly immersive and collaborative storytelling experience.
That's such a great point. It's about creating a backstory that's not just a static document, but a living, breathing element of the campaign. Okay, ready for tip number 3? This one is all about drama. Shape a defining moment in the character's past. We're not talking about just any Tuesday here. This is a pivotal event, a turning point that shaped your character's worldview and continues to influence their choices and actions. The article suggests some powerful examples like surviving a natural disaster, witnessing a betrayal, or achieving an impossible victory. These are the kind of experiences that leave a lasting impact, forging a character's resilience, shaping their fears, or fueling their desire for change. But remember, the defining moment doesn't have to be a grand, epic event. Sometimes the most impactful moments are those quiet personal experiences that shake a character's core. Maybe they made a difficult decision that had unforeseen consequences, or perhaps they witnessed an act of kindness that restored their faith in humanity. The key is to choose a moment that resonates with your character's core motivations, a moment that explains why they are the way they are. And don't be afraid to get creative. Maybe your character discovered a hidden talent. Or perhaps they had a chance encounter with a mysterious stranger that left them with more questions than answers. Whatever the moment may be, make sure it's something that continues to resonate with your character in the present. Maybe they carry a physical scar from the event. Or perhaps it manifests in subtle ways, like a recurring nightmare or a sudden aversion to certain smells or sounds. Remember, this defining moment is not just backstory. It's an ongoing internal conflict, a wound that might never fully heal. And it's that vulnerability, that lingering emotional weight that makes your character feel truly human.
What's fascinating about defining moments is that they often act as a catalyst for change. They force a character to confront their beliefs, their values, and their limitations. And it's in that crucible of challenge that true growth occurs. Think about Frodo Baggins in The Lord of the Rings. His journey to Mordor is fraught with peril and hardship. But it's through those trials that he discovers his own inner strength and resilience. The defining moment doesn't define the character. It reveals their potential. It sets them on a path of transformation, pushing them to evolve and adapt in ways they never thought possible. And when we incorporate these defining moments into our D&D backstories, we're not just creating characters with a past, we're creating characters with a future. We're giving them a foundation upon which to build their adventures, to face their challenges, and to ultimately become the heroes of their own stories.
I love that. It's like those defining moments are the cracks that let the light in revealing the character's true potential. And that brings us to the 4th tip, which focuses on collaboration with your dungeon master. Incorporate backstory hooks for the DM. This is where you, as a player, get to flex your creative muscles and give your DM some juicy material to work with, some unresolved conflicts, mysteries, or goals that they can weave into the campaign. Think about it. Maybe your character has a long-lost sibling they've been searching for, or perhaps they made a promise to a dying friend that they're determined to fulfill. These are the kinds of hooks that can add a personal touch to the campaign, making your character's journey feel all the more meaningful. The article gives some great examples, like a family feud, an unpaid debt, or a missing mentor. But don't feel limited by those suggestions. Think about what makes your character unique, what secrets they're hiding, what loose ends they need to tie up. Maybe they have a cryptic message tucked away in their belongings. Or perhaps they possess a strange artifact that they don't fully understand. Remember, these hooks aren't just for the DM's amusement. They're a way for you as a player to invest in the story and give your DM the tools to create a campaign that feels truly personal to your character. Now, you may be thinking, but won't that limit my character's agency if the DM knows too much about their past? And that's a valid concern. But here's the thing. A good DM won't railroad you into a predetermined story. Instead, they'll use those hooks as inspiration, weaving them into the narrative in unexpected ways, creating twists and turns that surprise even you, the player.
What's exciting about these hooks is that they invite collaboration and create a sense of shared ownership over the story. The player provides the raw materials, the seeds of conflict, mystery, and intrigue, and the DM cultivates those seeds, nurturing them into a vibrant narrative tapestry. It's a reminder that D&D is not a solitary pursuit. It's a collaborative art form where players and DM work together to create a shared experience. And when those hooks are well crafted and strategically placed, they can lead to some of the most memorable and emotionally resonant moments in a campaign. Think about a scenario where a player mentions a long-lost family heirloom in their character's backstory. The DM, inspired by this detail, decides to incorporate that heirloom into the campaign, turning it into a key plot device. Maybe it's the missing piece of an ancient artifact. Or perhaps it holds a secret that could change the course of history. Suddenly, that seemingly insignificant detail from the character's backstory becomes a central element of the campaign, driving the narrative forward and creating a sense of personal stakes for the player. It's a beautiful example of how collaboration and creativity can elevate a D&D campaign from a simple game to a truly immersive and unforgettable experience.
Exactly. It's about turning those backstory details into narrative gold, creating a story that feels both personal and epic. Okay, ready for the final tip. This one is all about keeping things streamlined. Keep it concise and adaptable. I know we all love to craft elaborate backstories, filled with intricate details and epic sagas, but here's the thing. Your backstory is not a novel. It's a foundation. It's a springboard for your character's journey, not the destination itself. So how do we achieve that balance between detail and conciseness? Well, the article suggests focusing on the key elements that will actually come into play during the game. What are the defining moments, the relationships, the unresolved conflicts that are most likely to shape your character's actions and choices? Highlight those elements, and don't be afraid to leave some things open to interpretation. Remember, your character's backstory is a living document, and it can evolve and change as the campaign unfolds. You might discover new details about their past, or they might make choices that reshape their motivations and goals.
It's about recognizing that a backstory is a starting point, not a finished product. The true joy of D&D lies in discovery and allowing your character to grow and change in response to the challenges they face. And when you embrace that adaptability, you open up a world of possibilities for your character. Maybe they start out as a cynical rogue, but through their adventures they develop a sense of compassion and heroism. Or perhaps they begin as a devout paladin, but their faith is shaken by the horrors they witness, leading them down a darker path. The beauty of D&D is that your character's story is never truly finished. It's a continuous process of evolution and transformation shaped by the choices you make, the encounters you experience, and the bonds you forge along the way. It's remarkable how these backstories, these meticulously crafted narratives we create for our characters, can take on a life of their own once the campaign begins. It's as though they step off the page and into the shared imagination of the players and the DM, evolving in ways we might never have anticipated.
I completely agree. It's like that old saying, no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. Except in this case, the enemy is the glorious unpredictability of a D&D session, where dice rolls, player choices, and the DM's improvisations can send even the most carefully crafted backstory veering off in unexpected and delightful directions.
And that's where the true magic of D&D unfolds, wouldn't you say? It's in those moments of unexpected convergence. where a seemingly random encounter or a twist of fate suddenly intersects with the character's past, revealing a hidden connection or unearthing a long-buried secret.
Oh, absolutely. It's those moments that make the game feel truly alive, as if the story is being guided by some unseen hand, or perhaps by the dice gods themselves. But it's not just about external events shaping a character's story. It's also about internal growth, about how a character's beliefs and motivations can evolve through their experiences, sometimes in stark contrast to the backstory we initially envisioned.
Precisely. Think about a character who begins their journey driven by a thirst for revenge, consumed by the flames of past injustices. But as they adventure, they begin to question the futility of their quest, the toll it's taking on their soul, and the potential for a different path. Or perhaps a character who initially clings to a rigid code of honor, a beacon of righteousness, but is forced to confront the nuanced realities of morality in a world where the lines between good and evil are often blurred.
It's like those classic redemption arcs we see in literature and film, where a character's journey transcends the mere accomplishment of goals, transforming them at their core. And this transformative potential feels uniquely suited to the collaborative storytelling of D&D, where player choices influenced by those initial backstories blend with DM improvisation to create these incredible moments of character development.
And it's not always about grand gestures or dramatic personality shifts either. Sometimes it's the subtle changes, those quiet acts of kindness, unexpected bursts of courage or moments of self-sacrifice that reveal the true depth of a character's transformation. It's in these subtle shifts that we see the backstory truly integrated into the present, informing the character's actions without dictating them.
I love that. It reminds me of that quote from Hemingway. The world breaks everyone, and afterwards some are strong at the broken places. It's those cracks, those imperfections that make a character feel real, relatable, and ultimately more human.
And it's embracing those imperfections, those flaws and vulnerabilities that we as players allow our characters to truly grow and evolve.
Okay, so we've talked about this fascinating interplay between a character's backstory and the campaign's unfolding narrative, about the way external events and internal growth can shape their journey in unexpected ways. But I think it's important to acknowledge that not all backstories are created equal. Some are simply more effective than others at achieving these goals, resonating more deeply with both players and DMs alike.
And that leads us to a crucial question. What are the hallmarks of a truly compelling backstory? What sets apart a good backstory from a great one? A backstory that doesn't just inform, but inspires.
That's the million gold piece question, isn't it? And it's something that Ken Chan addresses directly in his article. He emphasizes the importance of creating backstories that aren't just detailed, but meaningful. Backstories that provide a foundation for action, for growth, and for the kind of compelling drama that keeps us hooked on D&D.
He stresses the importance of grounding those backstories firmly in the game world, intertwining them with the setting's history, culture, and ongoing conflicts. These connections provide those fantastic hooks for the DM we talked about earlier, those threads that can be woven into the campaign narrative, creating a sense of purpose and relevance for the character.
And perhaps most importantly, he reminds us that the most compelling backstories are adaptable, flexible enough to allow for growth and change as the campaign unfolds. They're not static documents frozen in time, but rather living, breathing entities that evolve alongside the character, shaped by their choices and the consequences they face.
It's a vital reminder that a backstory, no matter how intricately crafted, serves as a starting point, not a final destination. It lays the groundwork for the character's journey. But it's the journey itself, the experiences encountered, and the choices made along the way that truly define who they become.
And that's what makes D&D such a captivating and enduring game, isn't it? It's that inherent unpredictability, the way a seemingly insignificant dice roll or an unexpected encounter can send a character's story spiraling in a direction no one, not even the DM, could have predicted. It's the magic of collaborative storytelling, the shared experience between players and DM, that creates something truly unique and memorable.
It's a testament to the power of imagination, a reminder that a group of people gathered around a table armed with nothing but dice pencils and their collective creativity can craft worlds and tell stories that rival the greatest works of literature and film.
Beautifully put. And it all begins with a backstory, that spark of inspiration that ignites the flames of imagination, setting our characters on a course for adventure and transformation. So to our fine fellow Paul Bello, and to all our listeners out there, I encourage you to embrace the power of backstory, to craft tales that will breathe life into your characters and send them on adventures that we'll remember for years to come.